Imagine being trapped behind barbed wire. Miles from home, in a camp designed to strip every ounce of freedom from you. The sun rises over watchtowers manned by guards who seem to notice everything. Yet somewhere in their shadows, a plan is taking shape. A plan so audacious, so daring, that if it succeeded, it wouldn't just mean freedom. It would mean a reward so extraordinary it almost seems unreal. $1 million. In the context of World War II, that wasn't just money. That was a fortune, a symbol of how valuable a life behind enemy lines had become. And for these Allied prisoners of war, it was the ultimate incentive to risk everything for a chance at escape. The stakes could not have been higher. These men weren't just trying to slip past guards or sneak through a fence. This was a meticulously coordinated breakout. A plan that required precision, timing, and nerves of steel. Every detail mattered. If one part of the plan failed, it wouldn't just be a failed escape. It could be execution, torture, or a sentence that no one wanted to imagine. And yet, despite the danger, despite the impossibility of it all, these prisoners didn't hesitate. For them, it was worth everything. Freedom. Life. And the extraordinary reward hanging over the entire operation. Like a prize at the end of the deadliest obstacle course imaginable. Planning something like this took ingenuity most people can't even imagine. Every day in the camp, the prisoners watched and learned. They studied guard routines, the timing of patrols, and the blind spots in towers. They whispered about tunnels, routes, and contingencies, all while pretending to obey the endless rules of camp life. Even small mistakes could blow the plan, yet they moved forward with calculated courage. Maps were sketched from memory. Tools were improvised from scraps. And every word exchanged had to carry meaning without raising suspicion. The more carefully they planned, the higher the tension became. They were playing a deadly game of chess against a system designed to keep them as pawns. Yet with each calculated risk, they inched closer to taking control of their own fate. What made the stakes even more surreal was the magnitude of the reward. $1 million in the 1940s was life-changing. It represented safety, a future after the war, the ability to rebuild lives destroyed by conflict. But it wasn't just about the money. It was the audacity of the challenge itself. Imagine knowing that every guard could spot you. Every corner of the camp was watched, yet the plan demanded moving forward anyway. The risk of failure hung over them like a shadow, heavier than the barbed wire itself. And yet, that shadow didn't crush them. Instead, it sharpened their focus. Every secret glance, every whispered word, every carefully hidden tool became a step toward freedom. Toward rewriting the rules of a place designed to trap them. By the time the first steps of the breakout began, the tension had reached almost unbearable heights. These men weren't just fighting for a chance to leave a camp. They were gambling with their lives against impossible odds. Motivated by courage, ingenuity, and the knowledge that if they succeeded, they would be remembered forever. It wasn't just an escape. It was a heist, a masterclass in strategy, and the most expensive breakout of the war. A story where the reward wasn't just wealth, but survival, honor, and the sheer triumph of human determination against unimaginable constraints. Inside the POW camp, life was a constant exercise in patience, observation, and quiet resistance. Every day followed the same rigid schedule. Roll call, labor assignments, mealtimes, inspections. Guards patrolled like clockwork, their eyes sharp, their routines predictable. For most prisoners, the routine was a means of survival, a way to get through the day without drawing attention. But for the men plotting the escape, every routine, every minor detail became part of a larger puzzle. They studied the guards' habits, memorized which sentries were lax and which were strict, and tracked the timing of inspections down to the second. The camp itself was their battlefield, and knowledge was their most powerful weapon. Camaraderie became both a shield and a strategy. Prisoners had to trust each other completely, because one slip could doom the entire plan. Conversations were coded, movements carefully choreographed, and tasks assigned based on skill, strength, or even subtle psychological insight. Some men were expert diggers, able to move earth quietly and efficiently. Others had artistic skills, forging documents or crafting maps from scraps of paper. A single misstep, like a smudge on a forged pass or an out-of-place footstep near a guard's route, could lead to immediate punishment or exposure. The pressure was enormous, but it fueled creativity. Ingenuity became survival. The prisoners learned to turn ordinary objects into tools. Tin cans for shovels, bed slats for reinforcement, scraps of fabric to disguise openings. Every piece of trash had potential. Every small act of observation could save a life. The mental and emotional toll was staggering. These men lived with constant fear, knowing that a single mistake could cost them everything. Sleep was a luxury, because every noise at night, a guard's whistle, a shifting boot, the distant clatter of machinery, could be a warning of discovery. Loneliness weighed heavily, especially when men were assigned separate duties to protect the plan. Yet, paradoxically, the constant danger forged bonds stronger than any peacetime friendship. They shared stories, whispered hopes of freedom, and drew courage from each other's determination. Every secret glance or quiet nod in the barracks became a reinforcement of trust. These bonds were not just emotional. They were tactical. A miscommunication could ruin months of planning, so cohesion was critical. The camp itself became a stage for psychological warfare. Guards and prisoners alike engaged in a silent battle of wits. Prisoners disguised holes, hidden tunnels, or smuggled tools under the guise of mundane tasks, while guards looked for anything out of place. Every patrol was a test of nerve. The prisoners learned to anticipate movements, create distractions, and exploit moments of inattention. Every action, no matter how small, was calculated to preserve secrecy and inch closer to the breakout. By the time the escape began, the groundwork had been laid over weeks, sometimes months. Every observation, every improvised tool, every secret code and hidden map contributed to the moment when the prisoners would finally act. The tension of living under constant watch, combined with the ingenuity born of necessity, made this escape not only possible but legendary. The mental and emotional preparation inside the camp proved just as vital as the physical act of breaking out, showing that in a place designed to strip them of freedom, the prisoners' resourcefulness, courage, and unity became their greatest weapons. When the day of the breakout finally arrived, every nerve in the prisoners' bodies was taut, every breath measured, every movement calculated. Months of planning, observing, and improvising had led to this moment, and now it was all about execution. The tension was electric. In the dim light of the pre-dawn hours, men slipped into positions, checking tools, maps, and routes one last time. Every tunnel entrance, every hidden compartment, every disguise had to be perfect. One mistake, one misstep, and the entire plan could unravel in an instant. It wasn't just about running for freedom. It was about surviving a gauntlet where even the smallest error could be fatal. The tunnels they had dug were marvels of ingenuity. Concealed beneath barracks, workshops, and even under gardens, they wove like veins beneath the camp. Men worked in shifts, moving dirt silently, reinforcing walls with scavenged wood, and ensuring the passage was stable enough to withstand the weight above. It wasn't glamorous or easy. It was grueling, claustrophobic, and nerve-wracking. But they had to finish without alerting the guards, without triggering the patrol dogs, without any sign that escape was imminent. Every sound echoed in those tunnels, every vibration could give them away. Yet the prisoners pressed forward with a mix of determination and fear that made them acutely aware of the stakes with every inch they advanced. Disguises and diversions were just as critical as the tunnels themselves. Men donned uniforms scavenged or forged from scraps, slipping past sentries who believed they were simply part of routine movements. Other prisoners created distractions, fires, staged arguments, or noises timed perfectly to draw guards away from key points. The plan was a dance, choreographed to the second, where timing could be the difference between life and death. Every man knew his role, every signal mattered. Coordination was essential. If one person lagged or miscommunicated, it could compromise everyone else. Then came the moment of truth. Prisoners began to move, slipping from hiding places into the tunnels and emerging under cover of darkness outside the camp perimeter. The night was their ally. Shadows concealed their presence. The distant sounds of guards' boots and watchtower shouts created a tension that felt almost unbearable. One wrong sound, one unexpected patrol, and the escape could collapse in a heartbeat. There were moments when men froze mid-step, hearts racing, listening intently for signs of detection. And every time a guard passed by unaware, adrenaline surged, mixing relief with the constant awareness that nothing was guaranteed. As the breakout progressed, near misses became stories in themselves. A patrolling guard turning too soon, a dog's bark echoing in the distance, or a tunnel entrance partially collapsing forced split-second decisions. Some men had to hide, freeze in place, or improvise alternate routes. Others pressed on, hearts hammering, knowing every second counted. The combination of courage, ingenuity, and sheer luck was staggering. By the time the escapees finally cleared the perimeter and disappeared into the night, the culmination of weeks of observation, Secret work and carefully orchestrated risk had succeeded. It wasn't just a physical escape. It was the execution of a masterful plan under the most extreme pressure imaginable. Every step, every diversion, every improvised tool, and every hidden passage had mattered. What seemed impossible in the imagination became real, proving that with courage, intelligence, and relentless determination, even the most heavily guarded prison could be conquered. Once the prisoners had slipped beyond the barbed wire and into the night, the reality of freedom hit them like a tidal wave. For months, they had lived under the constant gaze of guards, in the cramped confines of barracks, their every movement monitored, their choices stripped down to the bare essentials of survival. Now, finally, they were running on their own terms, feeling the chill of open air on their faces, the rough ground under their feet, and the terrifying exhilaration of knowing that every step could either carry them to safety or bring them back to capture. Or worse, the danger didn't end at the camp's edge. In many ways, it was only beginning. Navigating enemy territory required a combination of careful planning and quick thinking. They had maps memorized, safe routes identified, and contingency plans for patrols, checkpoints, and unexpected encounters. But reality always had a way of complicating the best-laid plans. Roads were patrolled, trains moved unpredictably, and locals could be friendly, suspicious, or outright hostile. Every decision mattered. Choosing whether to cross a field under moonlight, hide in a forest, or approach a village carried life or death weight. The men had to rely on their wits, their knowledge of terrain, and the bonds of trust they had built over months in the camp. One wrong turn could undo everything, but the sheer adrenaline of escape kept them moving. For some, freedom came quickly. For others, the journey was painstaking. Exhaustion set in, hunger gnawed at them, and fear never left their minds. But the shared determination to survive, to reach Allied lines, created an invisible thread that kept them going. They weren't just escaping for themselves. They were carrying the hopes of comrades who remained behind, the knowledge that success could inspire others to resist, and the monumental prize that had motivated them from the start. Every step forward was a statement of defiance against captivity, against a system designed to crush them, and against the war itself. As the story spread among Allied forces, the Breakout became legendary. Word of the daring escape, the ingenuity of tunnels, the disguises, and the near misses fueled morale. It showed that even in the darkest conditions, soldiers could outthink and outmaneuver their captors. Military intelligence took note as well, analyzing the techniques used, the organizational structure of the Breakout, and the psychological strategies employed to maintain secrecy and coordination. Lessons from this event influenced future POW camps, security protocols, and escape planning. The Breakout wasn't just a story of individual bravery. It became part of the broader war effort. A practical example of ingenuity, resilience, and the human capacity to act decisively under extreme pressure. The escapees themselves carried their experiences for the rest of their lives. Some returned to combat, others to civilian life, but all shared the memory of that night when months of preparation, teamwork, and courage culminated in a moment that transcended fear. The Breakout became a symbol of hope, perseverance, and the extraordinary lengths humans will go to reclaim freedom. It wasn't just about surviving captivity. It was about asserting agency, proving that even in the face of overwhelming odds, determination, intelligence, and courage could tip the scales. The story of the most expensive Allied POW breakout of World War II remains a testament to the unbreakable spirit of those who refused to be prisoners, transforming a desperate gamble into a defining moment of resilience and daring that resonates even today.